Well, hey, everyone, and welcome back to Practical Church Planting, where in 15 minutes or less, you will get practical tips, advice, and encouragement to help you plant and grow healthy churches. My name is Dylan Dotson, and today on this episode, we are switching roles a little bit, and I'll be your host. I'm joined with Brian Androsian.
Hello.
And today we're talking about how to be involved and how to plant churches when you're not the lead planter.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting topic to talk about because not everyone who wants to be involved in ministry or specifically in church planting necessarily has the giftings or maybe even the desire to be a lead pastor or a lead planter and to go out on their own and do that whole thing. So I want to do an episode on just kind of how you can be involved and how you can be instrumental in church planting without actually being a head pastor.
This is so great. Teach us, Brian.
Can't wait. And the reason we're doing this is the reason I'm kind of taking the reins on this is because I'm not a head pastor here at New City. Obviously, Dylan is, but kind of came on as a support role, but also want to do this as a career. So thought it'd be fun to talk about. So the first point, the first kind of reason that church planters need people outside of themselves or people in support roles is that church planting isn't a one-man job.
This is very true.
Can you vouch for that?
I can.
Okay. But yeah, it's not a one-man job and it's not a one gifting job. You know, church planters are good at some things and bad at other things. And we generally most church planters kind of have pretty similar giftings, right? Or at least pretty similar drives. And so there's things that, like Dylan, for example, things he's great at and things he's not so great at. So really, church planters need someone to come alongside and help fill those gaps.
And I would even say that, obviously planting this church, being lots of friends, people online that I've met that have planted churches, I think one of the biggest differences between those that have kind of launched and are growing and didn't close their doors or even able to make it to launch were planters that had people that were helping them. That wasn't just a one-man show.
Yeah.
So absolutely seen that happen. Not that anyone who wants it to be a one-man show, but I've just seen that the guys that were by themselves who didn't really have anyone else other than maybe their family, didn't make it very far because it's a lot of work.
Yeah, and we're saying that it's not a one-man job or one-man show. I mean, I think everyone watching is like, well, no kidding. You need volunteers. Right. You need people to serve in different spaces. And that's true, but really talking about the more, I don't know, this might be the wrong way to say it, the more like higher level jobs of actually like putting the things together. It's not a one-man job. Yeah. Like actually creating the structure of the church and stuff really needs some...
Yeah, like you're saying too, like there's budgeting, there's systems, there's organization that needs to be put in place. Not only does that take time, but it also takes different gifting and you're not going to be good at all those things.
Yeah.
So,
and one thing I've heard you mention many times, I think is good, is to focus on your strengths. And so if there's something like that you're, whether it's budgeting or kind of the more detailed stuff, if it's something you're not great at, I think it'll be much more effective to find someone that is good at it rather than to try and make yourself good at everything.
Yeah. And it's not, and like you're saying, it's not even just not being good at it, but it's just that when you're doing things that you despise, it drains you, it stresses you out.
Yeah.
In ministry and church planting is already hard enough. And so then having to do all the other stuff that even stresses you out even more, it just really wipes you out. So
yeah, for sure. And I think that brings us to our second point, and that is that visionaries, so church planters are pretty much, I would say, have to be visionaries, so visionaries need someone to help implement ideas.
Yes.
So, casting vision and all this stuff is great. And most pretty much every church planter I've met has huge vision and big grand plans of what to do, but they need someone to bring them down to earth a little bit and help figure out how to do these things.
Yeah, I always make the joke that my job at New City is really easy. I just think of what to do, but then Brian has to be the one that figures out and helps everyone else figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for Brian figuring out how to do it, you could have all these great ideas, but they would never actually take place.
Yeah, and I think both roles are important. Obviously, if you just have someone who just wants to put things in place and make plans of how to actually do it, but doesn't actually have the vision of where to go, you're never going to go anywhere.
Right.
And vice versa. If you just have the visionary without actually planning of how to do it, it's not going to go anywhere either. So I think you need both. I don't think one is, lesser or whatever, but you need both to work together. And I think that's, whether that's in church planting or in business in general, I think that's helpful.
And what's funny is this episode is kind of geared to encourage and help equip and help people that maybe aren't lead pastors, never maybe thought church planting wasn't for them, to show them that actually you have a role here.
Yeah.
But if you're a planter right now, you're a lead planter, you're probably thinking, especially if you don't have the kind of support like this sounds amazing, right? This isn't just like a lead planter doesn't want help. It's like, no, they want help. They just don't know where to go or they don't have somebody. But, you might be sitting here and being like, man, if I could come up with the vision and where I want to go and actually have someone help me implement it, my life would be a lot easier. And it would, which is why we're doing this episode.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, my hope is that some people do watch this and see that, hey, I don't have any plans and I don't think I'm called to be a lead pastor anywhere. Yep. But, I have a heart to help plant churches and I have giftings I think would lend well to that. And so hopefully you'll be able to watch this and see that you are needed and you are needed and find a place to go.
Yes.
Because the other parts, you can be needed, but if you don't have anywhere to go, you got to find somewhere to go that needs you. And the last kind of point I wanted to make is that God wants us to utilize our giftings and experiences. So if you maybe, watching this and be like, I want to be in church planting, but really all my experiences in the corporate world, or I have experiences doing this other things and not pastoring.
Right.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's not like you should have to apologize for that, but rather use your experiences and the things that you've learned over the years to help benefit the church and benefit the ministry.
Yeah, that's really good. Especially too, because it's, again, a lot of this stuff, well, ideally when we plant a church, we would love just like preach the gospel and meet with people. That would be great. But we live in a world that we need systems and processes and structures, right? To plant a church, you have to know how to run money and to create groups. And if you're growing, you have an assimilation process. There's a lot that goes into it. And to reach more people, the churchy, Jesus-y answers. I just want to preach the gospel. Right. But if you want to reach people, you have to create a system to where you can reach and help and love people. Yep. And so this is really important to have these sorts of things. And I think part of doing this, especially if you're a lead planter, is to be able to trust people and know that this isn't all about me, and actually share control and share leadership, share power, if you want to put it like that, where you're not just kind of all concerned about what you want and what you want to do. You have to have some humility to be like, no, I need help. And again, if you're listening to this, you're probably thinking, if you're planning a church, I would love someone to help me like this. And part of the reason why you may not have someone like that is, one, you may not ask, but two, you may say you want it, but then whenever it comes to a decision or how something's done, it's like, no, you have to make every little decision, which then doesn't let this happen.
Yeah, and I think part of it is, if this is something that you want, as part of your team or in your church plant, then you have to keep your eyes open, because if you're at the point where you're at least building a team, even if you're not meeting consistently, you may already have people that are right there that would be great at this and may not have ever even realized that it was an option.
Right. And that's what's so true too, is like so many people, maybe in the business world or, working normal jobs, they have operational giftings and skill sets, and they don't even know that they have a role that they could play.
Right.
So it's not even like people don't want to do this, is that like no one even approached them, no one even asked them. Maybe you're listening to this and you're a lead planner and you're like, no, I have someone on my launch team or in my church plant that has said they really want to help and they're more organized. What if I actually gave them some things, kind of talk through some of my ideas with them? And I bet you they would be really excited, because they don't even know that there's a role they can play.
Yep. I mean, and honestly, most people that are, if you're in like the kind of pre-launch phase and building a team, most people on your team are excited about church planning. They might not have been before, but they probably are now. So being able to use kind of what that person likes to talk about and likes to deal with to develop something that they like to do, which is help you plant your church, you're going to benefit greatly from it, but they're also really going to enjoy it and appreciate that you see that in them.
Yeah. And I want to ask this. So when we started New City, when you guys first jumped on board, you came before we launched, that sort of thing, your kind of original thought was to plant a church one day.
Yeah.
Was that because you thought that was what you were supposed to do, or that was the only way to be involved in church planting? Or was it because you really wanted to do it, then you changed your mind? Like, I'm just curious.
That's a good question. So a lot of it had to do with that I wanted to be involved in church planting. That wasn't a question, but that was kind of the only way that I could see how. That's the only thing I really knew, is that if you want to plant a church, you're a church plant. You be a church planter and you go out and do it. But also, I don't think I really knew how much of a need there was for more of support systems, because like I'd been involved in other church plants, but not to the capacity, obviously, that have been here. And so I don't think I really realized that, hey, the stuff that I'm good at and really like is something that's needed in a church plant, and it's something that's really outside of the preaching every Sunday and outside of going out and actually planting a church myself. Yeah.
So what maybe encouragement or advice? People are listening to this, they're not lead planners. Maybe they're just listening to this because they find it interesting, or they're like, I'm interested in church planting, but I don't really want to do that thing, so I don't know my role. Like, what would you maybe tell yourself 2 years ago, Brian, listening to this, or people that are listening to this and feel like they never knew that there was a role they could play?
Yeah, I would say let's start off, if you're involved in a church plant and want to maybe step into this role, or maybe not even sure if you want to, is just to ask what you can help with. When we started here, it wasn't a matter of like we went from volunteer to full-time staff overnight. It was told him that I wanted to be involved, and so I think the first thing he did is we were looking at getting some signs, and he emailed the stuff over to me and said, hey, can you find some prices for these?
Like, literally, Brian says he wants to get involved, and everything I asked him to do was done way faster, way more efficient than I could have ever done. I was like, oh man, this is really helpful.
But it was good for me to be able to kind of ease into it and see if it was something that made sense or something that I wanted to do. Because if it was just, hey, I want to be part of a church planter, it's like, all right, here, let's throw you in the residency or whatever and just start going. I probably would have hated it, because it's not what I wanted to do.
And I would say too, if you're kind of thinking, I'm not sure the lead planting role is what I want to do, I want to be involved. like actually going up to someone and being like, not just saying, hey, how can I help? But I guarantee if you walked up to maybe a lead planner, you're on a launch team, whatever, and you're like, hey, can I help with the run the books?
Yeah.
Or can I help organize maybe a volunteer schedule?
Yeah.
Like they would be like, are you kidding me? Like people actually like, especially the different gift sets. It's like people actually like doing that sort of thing. And so actually on your side, not being afraid to ask, but actually saying, hey, can I, because all the time, especially in ministry, church, everyone's like, I want to help. And it's like, well, it's really hard to kind of say who should do what to give. But if you actually give specific things, do you need help organizing anything? Do you need help, whatever? And I guarantee you a lead planner would be like, yes, please.
Yeah, and it's probably hard for a planner if someone goes up and is like, hey, what do you need help with? You don't know what that person's, strengths are. You don't know really what they even want to do. So if you instead, and I would say, don't even try and think through just what does this church planner need or what does this plant need, but what do you enjoy doing? And what are you good at? Because that's the thing that you're going to excel the most at. It's something that's not going to burn you out. They actually enjoy doing. So if that thing you enjoy doing is accounting, or if that thing you enjoy doing is, creating systems or human resources type stuff, then figure out what that thing is and go to the pastor or the planter, whoever, and be like, hey, I'm good at this and I like doing it. Is there any role you could see where I could just help out?
Yeah.
And start off with, helping out, even if it's something, even if you want it to be, a full-time ministry down the road, just start with what you can help out and dip your toes in and eventually be able to take on more tasks. And eventually it may turn into that. But I think the best way to start is just what you can help with just when you have some free time.
Yep. And that's how you not only help plant a church, but as you gain more experience, help maybe your church, other people that are wanting to plant churches, like you can speak into the more the operational side of things,
for sure,
where maybe a more lead pastor visionary can or doesn't have that calling or that gifting, that you need all these things to plant a church. And so you have a valuable role to play. So I hope we did this episode just to be like, if you're thinking, I'm not sure what my role is, if I even have a role to play, you do.
Yep.
And you can start doing some things, ask what you can do. And I guarantee you a lead planner would love to have you aboard.
Yeah, I would say regardless of your giftings or your experience, pretty much anything could be used in some capacity. So if it's something you want to be a part of, make it known.
Make it known. Awesome.
Yep.
Wait, thanks for being with us today on Practical Church Planning. As always, you can go to practicalplanning.com/questions. If you have a particular question you want us to answer in a future episode, even if you have a follow-up question for this, something else you want to know about doing behind the scenes, let us know. We'll answer it in a future episode, and we'll be with you next time on Practical Church Planting. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Practical Church Planting. Whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or Practical Planning, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make sure you like or subscribe or do whatever it's telling you to do or should do on that platform.
And hey, if you are so tired of looking at our ugly faces, but you're not tired of listening to our beautiful voices, then you can find our podcast if you just search Practical Church Planting on iTunes or Google Play. Make sure not to just find it, not just to listen, but to subscribe.
Make sure you subscribe. Brian, tell them to subscribe.
Subscribe.
See you next time.